It starts with an itch and a tingle, and then it builds and expands. And suddenly, all at once, my legs won't let me stand. I scratch till my fingers go numb.
Hello everybody and welcome to this episode of Suicide Sucks. And we're here in the camper, we've got our cuppers. Cheryl is with me today and she has got a cup of tea.
I have.
With some sweeteners. And I've just got tea as usual. And Ozzy's with us, of course, as ever, keeping us company. Probably be snoring shortly. So Cheryl is a resilience coach and soon to be author, which she's going to tell us all about later. Cheryl has faced unimaginable challenges and speaks from personal experience, offering hope and inspiration to those who feel lost or broken. Now, she was once trapped in a cycle of trauma, substance misuse and despair, and Cheryl hit rock bottom after a suicide attempt. This began a journey of healing for her, and she learnt to confront her past, embrace self-worth, and transform pain into purpose, which I absolutely love. I mean, that's just putting such a positive vibe on something that sounds so shit.
Don't sound great, does it?
Well done, Cheryl. Welcome to the camper van.
Hey, thanks, Mick.
So, as ever, we are going to start with the question that I always start with. And again, it can be difficult because you might have had lots of dark days, but if you could just contemplate for us and think about what was one of your darkest days.
My darkest days. I suppose one of my darkest days was when I ended up in the hospital after an attempt on my life, really. I suppose I was living in shared accommodation. I didn't have any support, really. I was very young. I think I was 19 at that time. So yeah, like I say, I attempted my life. I woke up in hospital. I can't remember anything. I must have passed out. My dad was there when I woke up. I don't know how long I'd been out. Apparently it'd been a couple of days. So yeah, he got up, he was very cross, as you would be as a parent. But that didn't stop me. I went back to the shared accommodation, tried again, ended up in hospital again, and this time they admitted me to a psychiatric ward, where I was seen by numerous psychiatrists. And I had quite a lot of diagnoses in my time. I was in and out for about 6 months in hospital because I couldn't regulate myself. I went from I was in depths of despair, and then I was happy as anything, and it weren't till I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder plus there were loads. There were BPD and schizophrenic, schizoaffective disorder. There were quite a few. I think they just didn't know they just didn't know. It's very strange because after the attempts, I would come round and I'd say I'm fine, it was a mistake, that's why they'd let me home. But it happened again, it kept happening. So, really, whenever resolved. And it was just a cycle then of doing that. It became I don't know if it were a kind of habit or it were a cry for help or I didn't know how to manage myself. But from my teenage years, it was super difficult. I suffered with eating disorders too, and self-harm, a lot of that. I just couldn't manage my emotions for anything. It was just like everything was too hard, it was overwhelming. So yeah, that was the darkest times, I would say.
And is that looking back, you can see that you couldn't manage your emotions?
Absolutely. At the time, I was like, yeah, like looking back, I'm 50 in 2 months, Mick, 50, I can't believe it. This is a celebratory year. I did say to Mick the other day, I went, this is a celebration. I didn't think I'd be here to live this day. But yeah, so I didn't know, I just thought I was wrong. I just thought I was broke, and I thought, there's no point in living because I feel so down and sad, and everybody else is normal, and why can't I feel normal? And yeah, it was just hard times looking back. It was very hard, but I don't know. and then out of the hospitals, I didn't manage myself at all well for 15 years after that. That was just the start of terribleness. That's a bad word, terribleness. Of not very good times, I would say. It was just, yeah.
Did you get any help when you'd been into...
Not particularly. I mean, that was years ago. How long ago was that? I'm 50. 30 years ago.
Yeah.
The psychiatric ward I was in, were just in a normal hospital. It was just a ward. And the staff were lovely from what I can remember, a long time ago. But I don't know, I just think they just let you get on. And so when you're over that, as soon as you're over that crisis. But to be honest, I would have said to them, I can't really remember, but I would have probably said to them, I don't need help, I'm fine. That's what I was like every time I'd come round. It were a mistake, sorry, I knew exactly what to say to get discharged.
Yeah.
And I didn't know why I'd done it. They said, why'd you do it? I said, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Do you know now, looking back?
Yeah, I would think now I did, because you just, even now I just feel like, wow, I don't want anybody to feel like that. It was shocking, honestly. It was just, the feelings. And people say, like, attempting to take your own life or wanting to take your own life is selfish. But in that mindset, it's not selfish. You're like, they're better off without me. I'm just a burden. I'm just giving them heartache. I'm just a trouble to them. So in that moment, you think they'd be better off. And obviously they're not. Your family, your friends, they'll be like, oh my God. But you think that in that moment. So.
And what do you think? I mean, obviously, there could quite easily be 19-year-olds listening to this episode and having a really shit time. Yeah. What kind of things led you to that moment of feeling like there's no other option? Can you talk about that? What kind of things?
Yeah, I think I can. I had a child young. I had a child at 17. Obviously, I moved away from family. I kind of isolated myself because of the way I felt. I didn't feel normal. I didn't feel stable. And then I fell pregnant when I was 17. And then I had a baby. But I'd moved away from my hometown of Barnsley. So I'd moved to Sheffield. Fresh start with this man. Thought we're all going to be lovely. They obviously weren't that lovely. So I had the baby. Loved him to death. A little boy. Anyway, so I don't know if the pregnancy, because obviously my brain was haywire, and I don't know, it's harder if people are diagnosed with any sort of mood disorders. I've learnt this over the years, obviously. Having a baby can set off postnatal depression quite badly.
Right.
So I think looking back, I started with postnatal depression because I'd just had a baby. Okay, and I was very young. So I feel it was that, and obviously professionals would disagree because they gave me all them diagnoses knowing I'd had a baby. I'd got a baby. And to be honest, I know a lot of psychiatrists, and I've worked in a lot of mental health services. And to be fair, psychiatry is a guess. A psychiatrist can only guess what's wrong with your mind through what you tell them or what they can observe. Mm-hmm. So it's just a guess. But anyway, so I feel like it must have been after the baby, and I was so angry as well. I was so angry. I remember having the baby in Sheffield. It was a tiny little thing. I used to get so angry I would smash up the house. I would get so angry. It was shocking. My temper was bad. I just couldn't control myself at all. So that's when the self-harming started again, and I did that to kind of try and manage my emotions and my feelings. But like I said, it got to a point where then I would have to go into hospital. And then it got to a point where I think because of how I was presenting, I felt at that time that my child weren't right with me. I felt useless and worthless. I couldn't look after this baby. I wanted this baby with all my heart, but I'd isolated myself from my family. And to be fair, me and my mum never had that best relationship. We didn't really get on so good. And I remember going to her with my little son pushchair, and she won't let me stay there. That was it. I thought, right, that's it. I've got nothing. I can't go anywhere. I can't turn anywhere. I had to go back to Sheffield where I was with the guy I was with, and I was like, I don't know what else to do. I don't know what else to do. I've asked for help. No, you can't stay here. And I think that was it. I don't know what else to do, and my brain just went haywire. And then obviously I thought, well, I don't feel stable. The baby's better off, like with a father. But it's the last thing I wanted. It is the last thing that I wanted, and that just spiraled me. Then I didn't have the stability of the baby. I didn't have to be there for the baby. Like it was like, right, I'm going into. That's when I went into shared accommodation. That's when the first attempts on my life were, because I didn't have my son. I had nothing to live for. At that time, I felt like I had zero things to live for. Even though I still got a son, but he was being cared for. So yeah, that's how that really transpired. But I think prior to that, my childhood wasn't that great. There were things that went on, you know, that I dealt with at that time, or so I thought. But looking back again, them things that had happened, they were all building up in me. Then I hit my teens, hormones, boof, 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 boom. And my brain couldn't take any more. That's what happened. Looking back now as a nearly 50-year-old, that's what happened. And if somebody had told me what they had gone through at such a young age, I would have known. Because I worked in camps for years myself, so I would have known what happened to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the time you don't know that.
No.
You're just a young, scared person.
So, what do you think? Like, if you were rewriting that, you know, what would have worked for your 19-year-old self when you were in that? Would anything have worked?
Do you know what, Mick? I don't think it would. I was very bloody-minded. You ask anybody, she does what she wants. And I didn't feel that I did that. I think people thought I was like scary. Even my appearance, I'd got a shaved head. Even my appearance was scary. I'd wear like a lot of leather and black. I had a number 2 shaved head, and I don't know if I was just screaming out that I was so unhappy, please notice me. At the time, I think that's what it was. But I think people took it the wrong way, like, as you would, look at her with shaved head and black clothes.
Yeah.
She's a bit...
It's like going to hug a porcupine or something.
Yeah, exactly. And I think my dad did his best. Honest to God, I think my dad did his best. But the damage was already done. And I don't... People with mood disorders, I only discovered this when I actually accepted that's what I got. And I did not accept that for many years, Mick. Many, many years. It's only till very recent, in fact, within 10 years, that I accepted my diagnosis, yes.
Right, because I was going to ask about that, because if they were saying that when you were 19, what happened with regards to that diagnosis from 19?
So I just went, obviously, my bloody-minded 19-year, I don't be so ridiculous. Don't know nothing. You don't know anything. So to level out my moods, which looking back weren't the best thing to do, I just thought, I was still in that mindset of I don't care if I live or die. I was in that mindset. I just miss my child so much. It was a pain that I don't want anybody to have to feel that. I have never felt so heartbroken. And the only way I felt to relieve that, I'd never done drugs in my life, right? Never, ever done drugs. And it weren't until I were in a hostel. I went in a hostel after one of my hospital admissions because I was homeless. That somebody offered me, this is really bizarre, knowing what I know now, offering me this substance. And I'm like, no, I'm all right. She went, go on, try it. I was so naive, I didn't know it was heroin. I smoked it on foil. I was sick for hours. Honestly, I just smoked it on some foil and I was just sick. But remember, I was in a mindset of, I just don't know if I want to be here. In fact, I don't want to be here. I don't care what happens to me. That, and I didn't care what I was doing. It was shocking. I just felt out of control. But after a few hours of being sick, I thought, oh, I feel quite calm now. It's quite nice, that. And that's how it started. It took every worry away. Now, I'm not an advocate of drugs at all. And I was a drug worker for 15 years after getting clean. So, but yeah, and that is how it started. And then I carried on for about 10 years, taking various drugs. Hence, that's why I'm writing a chapter in a book. But but then you're focusing on the drugs, and even when you're not having the drugs, you're focusing on getting the drugs, getting the money for the drugs, you're in that sort of circle. And it's just...
So really, that's kind of that whole self-medicating for a diagnosis that you don't believe.
Yeah,
thing,
for sure.
You're in denial. Really.
I'm like, no, that's not me.
Yeah,
that's not me. I'm not doolally. I'm not having that.
Yeah.
So I'd rather have been a drug addict instead. Then, obviously, that makes sense, didn't it?
So how did you get clean?
So from being in Sheffield, I had a quite terrible relationship with an olderish man, a few years older, but again, I was in that frame of mind, so you're not going to, well, you probably would believe this, Mick. I actually hitchhiked from Blackpool. I was with this guy in Blackpool. From Sheffield, I went to Blackpool with this man who, very bad relationship, used to beat me, were very controlling. I actually hitchhiked down from Blackpool to London with the clothes on my back. While he were in a drunken stupor, I could go, because we were very controlling. We were in a bed and breakfast, homeless thing. Hitchhiked it down to London. Clothes on my back.
Blimmin' heck.
Honestly, it was. But at that time, I weren't so engrossed in the drug side of things. It could take it or leave it. I weren't addicted at this point.
Right.
So I went down there, and I must have been 20, 21. I'm still only quite young, really. And I went to a homeless place in London, and I got put in a hostel. Well, you know what them hostels are like. Easy people were offering you drugs all the time then, because that's what they did. And obviously me being me, yeah, like I said, I did not care at that point whether I lived or died, so I would take anything that were there. But again, it was a pain of not having my son. I'm not saying that was a reason at all, because, you know, I still had a son, but it was not an excuse. It was not. There's no excuses for taking drugs. You just take them for whatever reason. But you'll find, like in the hostel, they all took them. And when you've got talking to these other substance users, it's very similar stories. They either haven't got the children or the kids have been took off them due to drug use. So yeah, it was. I remember being homeless as well on some nights, like, because she didn't want to go back to the hostel because it was so bloody awful. I'll just sleep in this corner because it's quieter. Honestly, I can laugh about it now, but I just wasn't right cracking young girl in London, honestly. Like, I look back thinking, wow. And again, I just think, how am I alive? Because there were some times when I thought, I'm going to die through my own stupidness of, you know, either not caring, you know, it's just... And I did see my son during this time. Like, I would come up and see him, but obviously it wasn't the best.
So again, how did you get out of how did you come?
So I got a flat, a council flat, and then after years of doing that, I met a lovely man actually, not a non-drug using guy, and got clean off that. And then I got my son off drugs, and we moved to Southampton. So I would always say, if you're in a place where you're surrounded by people who use drugs, you need to move. You need to move from that area. Totally get away, because you cannot. It's so hard to get off drugs when people around you are having them.
Yeah.
So I moved down Southampton, and then yeah. So, and this is what people say. They'll say, well, some people can't get off drugs. And I'll say, if your why is big enough, you will do it. It'll be hard. And then I had my little girl. I had a girl and then a boy. So 2 children with the man I met, and it were absolutely. And I still speak to him now. He's an absolutely, he's a lovely man. But my head was still in a bad place. Still weren't right. I was still chaotic. and again, I think the pregnancies, I had really bad postnatal depression with both of them. And again, I don't make the smartest choices sometimes. I had 2 babies 18 months apart. I think all my life I don't make good choices, mate. You know what I mean? But I take onus on my choices. It's people shouldn't blame diagnoses for their behaviours. I always hold my hands up to whatever I do. Yes, it wasn't probably the right decision or the right choice, but I made that choice.
Yeah.
And I mean, don't get me wrong, mood disorders, if they're not stable or medicated, you can make such rash decisions when you're in mania. Spend loads of money, have risky sex, all of that. And it's true, you can't help it neither, because your brain, it goes for quick, I just say, quick things, quick enjoyment.
Yeah.
It's really hard to describe.
It's like that adrenaline rush, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like... Really?
In fact, adrenaline chasing, that's a sign of ADHD, isn't it, as well?
It's just chasing the quick wins all the time. But yeah.
So you had 2 more kids.
Yeah.
And then you were obviously in an okay relationship.
Yeah, okay relationship, but then I didn't feel as though I was still working the best. I went on medication after kids were born, to be fair, because I thought, I know I'm not right. I know I'm quite depressed. I knew I won't go in. I wasn't doing anything. I kept myself to myself, which I do actually quite a bit. But people actually say, Cheryl, I can't believe you're quite a recluse, because you were a chatty person.
Yeah.
You're quite sociable.
Yeah.
I says I am, but I like to keep it to myself as well. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's weird, isn't it? Like that. Like it's a strange thing. But anyway, so I didn't really mix with anybody.
And so what were you on medication for depression then?
Yeah.
You hadn't yet.
So I'd not agreed that I had the mood disorder.
Right.
So I'd been on antidepressants. And I'm trying to think, actually, you saying that, when I agreed that I had that diagnosis, I'm trying to have a think now. When I actually agreed to go on some mood stabilisers, it must have been years, and quite a lot of years after, because it's a bit hazy. I must have got re-referred in through the GP to see the mental health team. And from psychiatry, I agreed to go on some mood stabilisers. But that's after I messed up my relationship with my kid's dad.
Right.
Rashly, we split up. That was my rash decision again.
Right.
Me not thinking things through. Rash. All the time making these rash decisions. So then I was in a relationship with somebody else, and then I think it was then that I thought, I'm not quite right. I'm still too... I mean, some people are more impulsive than others in life anyway, but I was too much impulsivity. Still spending a lot of money on times. Then I would get really low, and I'd think, but people do it, and I'd used to say to me, but people do have good and bad days, Cheryl, it's fine. I'd rationalise it in my head.
Yeah.
But I think then one time I must have had a manic episode, and I did not sleep for weeks. I was shocking. That must have been when I got re-referred to the mental health team, and I thought, right, I need to do something. But medication alone won't work. So, and then I did a lot of self-work that you need to manage your own emotions. You need to manage don't rely on medication. You need to rely on your own emotions. But you do need medication. But you need to do all the other stuff as well as.
Yeah.
So it weren't that until then. I mean, I've just come out of a marriage, well, about 5 years ago now. That weren't happy. And it weren't until I left that marriage that I started the self-help work, the work that I needed to do.
Right. Because I was going to say, you know,
It took a long time.
How do you learn to manage and regulate your emotions?
It weren't until 5 years ago, bearing in mind I was 45, that I really started to do some work on myself. And it's like, it's took a long time, Chaz.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to manage yourself, but you've got to want to do it, actually. You've got to want to change it. And changes are hard anyway. But you've got to know your own triggers, or not triggers, I don't like that word. You've got to know your own self. And because I know my own self for that many decades, it was a bit easier for me than a 19-year-old to do that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I can sit here and say that now because I'm nearly 50.
Yeah.
But for somebody who's 19, I've got a daughter, she's 23. She's got ADHD. She can't manage herself. She comes to me, Mum, what shall I do? And I said, well, you know yourself best. Oh, you never give me any good advice. Then she rang me the other day and she goes, actually, Mum, diet and exercise help massively, doesn't it? I said, yes, it does, dear. She wanted me to tell her something magic or something. I said, there's no magic. There's no magic. Whatever works for you. But she finds exercise, like myself, helps her.
Yeah.
And to eat a varied diet and reduce sugar and all that.
And that's often what we always come round to on these podcast episodes, is that, you know, there is no magic wand. You've got to get to the point where you want to help yourself. Really.
Yeah, I know. And it took me like, I don't know, 3.5, nearly 4 decades. Actually, no, 4.5, mate. 4.5 decades later, I decided I needed to sort myself out.
But the main point of that is that you did.
That's it, I did.
And
I did.
like you said to me, you know, and you mentioned at the beginning, you know, you didn't really think that you would get to this point.
I did not. I know, it's amazing, really. It's just, and not many people know that about me, actually. So I've worked in mental health services for a lot of years, and CAMS. So I never told anybody about my younger past, like my younger self. It's very, I'm surprised I'm actually talking about it. It's never something I'd really shared, because I didn't need to. It wasn't ever mentioned. It wasn't something I felt as though I needed to share with people, which is fine. But I think people will be shocked sometimes if they hear the podcast and say, because everybody will say, well, Cheryl's such a happy little person. A happy, she's cheerful. She's so cheerful, she's so pleasant, she's so approachable.
Bundle of energetic joy.
Energetic, yeah, this is what people say, but so they might be shocked that there was time, like that time in my life when I weren't so.
Yeah.
But, yeah, but I think it makes you happy knowing you were in that, like, if you were in that state, that you're not there now, but I think everybody's got their own different personalities anyway. But yeah, people are, they are.
They are. So tell us now a little bit about what you're up to these days. So you obviously, you know, you did a lot of self-work.
I did a lot, Mick.
And you're at the position that you're at now.
Yes.
Tell us what you do now.
Well, now I am a trainer of personal... I don't know. I would say physically and mentally. So I'm a coach, really. So I train people to get mentally and physically fitter. And I'm actually... I'm writing a chapter in a book called A Hero's Journey. So it all come about due to this chapter as well, and getting to know you through our various little trips.
Yeah. Not those kind of trips.
No, not them trips. No, not them trips.
We've been on a few courses together.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so I thought, actually, I think I need to speak about it, because I know quite a few people lately, I've been to a few funerals, and I thought it's something that's not spoken about, like how people can feel at rock bottom and know it's okay, know that it's not forever, and it might not be next day you feel well, or the weeks, or the months, but you will feel better at some point. And I thought I want to write about that and know that people who's been diagnosed with like mental health disorders, who's had any substance misuse issues, that you can get better, but you do need to want to stop that drug use, or you need to, you know, want to manage yourself better and not rely on substances, or you have to want that. And I just thought, actually, I want people to know it's going to be okay. So that's what I wanted to do. So in this chapter, I write about a hero's journey. I think there's 10 authors in a book. I think there's a fair few books actually, Mick, but yeah. So it's a chapter in a book, and we will be speaking about it at, I don't know, I think there's a tour and all that. So we'll be speaking on tour about it, and hopefully it'll help someone. Because there's not very much, to be honest. There's people try, like with the clubs and all that, but I know from my professional point of view, services are overstretched. The NHS services are overstretched, and I've worked in them for years. Everyone's underfunded, everybody's struggling to see people on the caseload, and the amount of referrals that are coming in, and it's just really difficult. And it's been hard with COVID. There's a lot of variables why services are so stretched.
Yeah,
but
and you're doing things to try and help certain groups of people as well, aren't you? So tell us a little bit about, you know, people might be being inspired by listening to you today, and they might think, oh, do you know what? I'd love to have a session with Cheryl, or tell us about the other things that you've got going on.
So I also do quite a bit with menopause and perimenopausal ladies, again physically and mentally. So I've got little WhatsApp groups, or you can come and see me in person. I've group discussions, have a chat, or I can do online appointments. It's just about really knowing where you want to go. Like sometimes you'll sit there, and it's just about having that somebody there to point you in the right direction, or give you that encouragement, or you know, they might want to ask you questions where they start, but everybody will be very different on their journey.
Yeah.
Or it might, like if you've just been diagnosed maybe with a mood disorder, and you'd be like, well, I don't know what to do with that. Because a lot of time you just get diagnosed and left.
Yeah.
And it's like, right, we've given you that diagnosis, take these tablets, bye.
Yeah. And like you've pointed out, a lot of those mood disorders can be heightened at certain times. So like when you've given birth, and potentially, I mean, I'm assuming that's why there is quite a high rate of suicides from menopausal women.
That's
because
right.
Again, it can, it's that word again, but trigger.
It's the hormone fluctuations.
So you've got a session at the moment, haven't you, on a Sunday?
Yes, I've got a session on a Sunday. It's in person at the minute, in Barnsley. So I know there's not many people. If you want to come, just drop me a message. Mick will put me details on. But yeah, they can join in person, or there's online if you don't want to do that. Nice little community online. So yeah, menopausal women do suffer at that time of life. They may have to change medications. They may have to increase it if they're on them. But yeah, I have had to change mine personally, coming up to and going through menopause, because it hit me quite hard, even though I do all my stuff of self-help and, you know, do things that help me, but it's still, I had to change some medications. Because, you know, I went on HRT. Now, some ladies don't want to go on HRT, or they can't take it, so they need to do things that soothe and calm them, but it's a minefield Mood disorders and menopause is an absolute minefield.
And it's about getting that balance right, I suppose, isn't it? You know, it's not like, and also one thing doesn't fit all.
It.
So you've got to try
Absolutely.
it to find out.
And you'll find that women will be prepared to take anything for the feeling. What is it? Mushrooms and peas. Yeah, we'll try that. At midnight, over a candle, on a full moon.
Yeah. It's so right though. I try anything when I'm feeling rubbish.
It's true, me too.
Absolutely.
Well, not the illegal types now though. No, none of that.
No.
Maybe chamomile tea now, Mick.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you'd like to get across to our listeners today?
Well, if it's a last little message, I would say reach out to someone. That's what I wish I would have done. But I would never have done it, my younger self. But do speak, do reach out, either online if you don't want to talk. Just there's support online. You could come to Vent and Vibe on a Wednesday, 10 till 11 on TikTok.
Good point, yeah.
But it is about sharing, and sometimes just sharing and knowing it's okay to feel like that. It's fine. We all have us dark days, which is true. I mean, not so much anymore, but we can all feel rubbish. We can all feel low and down. But just reach out, and if you're feeling low or sad or alone, just reach out before you get to a crisis point. But some people don't take action until they're at crisis point as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have actually mentioned that you can't reach out until you're at crisis point because you've got to give in.
Yeah, and I do, yes. And I do know that from unfortunate experience of working in services and personal experience, that, it's quite shocking, really. Mm. But I know there's like Andy's Man Club and all that. There's a lot of clubs now, isn't there, for that reason, underfunding of our services through government for many years.
Yeah.
That's it's made us services not that accessible sometimes.
There is. And there's also the Things to Live For membership that you can join up to as well, which is all online.
Yes.
So check that out as well. But Cheryl, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And I hope you've enjoyed your cuppa.
I have. It's all gone.
It starts with an itch and a tingle, and then it builds and expands. And suddenly, all at once, my legs won't let me stand. I scratch till my fingers go numb.